So just take a moment to really get settled in this room, in your seat. Allow yourself to feel grounded here by recognizing that your chair or cushion is on the floor, which is connected to the floor below, which is connected to the ground below. But then if we take a few deep breaths and allow ourselves to expand our rib cage, uplift our chest, we can maintain a sense of spaciousness so we can be grounded by the earth, but also keep our hearts open, have a spaciousness. Our mind is spacious. It's not physical. You can travel anywhere. Check in with your body. Notice if you're holding your face tense, the forehead, the area around the eyes, the mouth, the jaw, and use your breath to allow them to soften. And then allow your neck and your shoulders to soften. Allowing our torso to be relaxed, our belly to be soft. All the way down to our toes. Awake, grounded, but relaxed, open. Think about the reason you're here. And based on that reason, try to generate a positive intention to use your time well. And turn to page 34. read the four measurables, which are the four measurable lines of love and compassion, measurable joy, and immeasurable equanimity. So these are our aspirations for our mind. Okay. May all sentient beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So I just discovered this morning that Thanksgiving's in 4 days. I kept thinking the grocery ads and the radio shows on how to cook a turkey were like a little early, without realizing I'm a little late. So, but anyway, so I usually like to start talking about families, but before the holidays and Christmas and Thanksgiving. Usually many people have visits with family members during this time of year, and that can bring up some challenges for some people. Does anybody have challenges around that issue? Are y'all all really comfy with?
I do.
You have issues, yeah. So it's really helpful to practice before family gatherings, to practice with the mind. The mind and heart are the same word, in Asian languages and Buddhism. It's this, so we don't make a distinction between love and wisdom. They're both types of mind, they're both states of mind, and both of those are positive states of mind, love and wisdom, compassion. What do you think are some of the conditions for the challenges with family gatherings? Politics. Like you mean really politics. Things that you just don't discuss at the Thanksgiving table, right? So, we have our cultural history seems to indicate that, talking about religion or politics is not something we should do, not encouraged. I have a theory about that because I pretty much have a theory about everything. So it's not worth anything, but my theory on that is that it comes from like the Civil War, where people fought on opposite sides. And so then they came together for their holidays after the war, and they had to try to pretend to get along. So it just became taboo. Because in other countries it's not. There's a real energy around talking about, the affairs of the world, and, they're just in there. They can be very heated discussions, but they don't seem to be quite so polarizing. But they might be, I don't know. I know that when I've been in other places, it hasn't been like that. So, and then in places like Australia, where it's required that you vote, people are a lot more informed because, they either vote or get fined. So they kind of stay on top of things a little better. But so yeah, so there are usually topics that might come up in conversation that might bring up the perceived differences between the family members, What else? Comparing. And what are we comparing?
Success, happiness.
Oh, you mean we are kind of
Like,
showing off when we're
yeah.
talking?
Yeah.
And what have you been up to? It's like those letters you get from people, those annual letters. Oh, all my kids have graduated from honors and now are heads of really big, powerful organizations. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. What else?
It's very fraught with expectations. expectation?
It's fraught with expectations, yes. So I agree with all of these things. It's fraught with opinions, it's fraught with a little bit of
Blame? maybe?
Old memories.
blame,
Old memories.
old memories. So what does that say about our minds before we show up?
We need to be ready.
Like preparing for war.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
It's supposed to be peace, love, and happiness.
Yeah, and yet
Everybody
we,
can join together.
and instead we have a tendency to put on armor. You know, like, okay, I need to be prepared. So-and-so's gonna say such and such and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What else do we do with our armor?
But, you know, when I say be ready, I think it's more like
I'm not picking on
don't,
you.
well, no, but I think it's not going with the sort of, not going with the sort of like me attitude, or like focused on like what's going on in your life, because I think if you don't go with the right state of mind, whenever you're interacting with a lot of people, I think you need to go in with the
Yeah.
right state of mind.
So right now, we're talking about the
Getting set.
challenges,
Okay, yeah.
not the solutions.
Yeah.
Let's first get our little imagery in
I
there.
would say adding to expectations would maybe bring worry.
Yes, because they kind of go together.
Yeah.
So we bring sort of our, yeah, go ahead, Chad.
In terms of that armor, the best defense is an offense.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. So we bring with us our protections, what we think will protect us from harm, which can be sometimes in the form of assumptions. I'm going to assume that this person will be like this person always is, and I'm not going to like it. You know, and I assume that this person will be open and wonderful and blah, 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 and I'm going to like her. You know, and on we go. So we build up sort of a preconceived notion of how it's going to be. And so our expectations are in there, our worries are in there, you know, and we really are ready to, you know, see exactly what we think, you know? And we can miss everything else because we've decided how it's going to be. And then what else do we put in there?
All of our judgments.
Oh, yeah, all our judgments, absolutely. And our hopes, our wishes, it will be different this year. You know? That, you know, that's it, you know, this is the worst case scenario kind of thing, you know. Most of us have sort of a mixture of it, you know, parts of it, you know, we look forward to it, other parts not so much, you know, but we have kind of a mixture of things. But the way we can handle all of it, whatever comes up, is really to kind of take a moment to reflect on what we bring to the picture, you know, so that we can walk through that door with an openness to whatever we find when we enter, you know. Instead of bringing our hopes or preconditions almost, it's not really even preconceptions, it's sort of like, you know, I'm gonna behave this way because I know y'all are gonna be behaving that way. So, you know, but instead, you know, we have a very closed, guarded kind of attitude. If we have an expectation, it's gonna be challenging. So we can imagine what it's like in our mind before we go and try to let go of some of that stuff. And instead bring into it what you want to bring to family gatherings. You know, how many people are forced to go to the family gathering? No one. We choose, don't we? So we need to remember that. We're choosing to go. So there's for whatever reason it is, we want to be there. It might be we want to be there because we don't want to disappoint our mother. We might want, but it doesn't matter what the reason is. We're choosing to be there. And so we want to look at how can we bring that attitude to the gathering. You know, I'm choosing to be here. I want to be here. And that's just taking responsibility for our choices. Now, if our choice is based on, I want to be here to see if y'all are going to act better this year. You know, it's to see if I finally have the family gathering I want to have. Yeah, well, we're setting ourselves up and everybody else there to somehow, like, you know, it's like we almost should come in with little contracts and say, I'm only here because I expect you to do this and you to do that. And so please, everybody sign. I'm not coming in until you all sign my contract. So we want to be aware of these before the fact. We want to be able to sit, you know, you can spend, you know, 30 minutes, you know, this week before the Thanksgiving gathering, you know, and just contemplate, what is it I bring in with me? What attitude do I bring in with me? What expectations do I have? Are they fair? Are they reasonable? And what good do they serve? You know, if we have the expectation of having an argument or a heated discussion or just words, you know, with somebody, what's the likelihood of us having those? You know, we might start it. Then also, we might not see the opportunity for that not to happen. You know, we just kind of fuel it without realizing that we're encouraging it to happen, to fulfill, you know, this is what a self-fulfilling prophecy is. You know, we make the conditions to help it happen. And then we go, see, I was right. So, you know, we want to be aware of that we can be part of the condition, or we're absolutely part of the condition of what happens. We're one of the participants. So, and then we want to really look at what is it, what is actually valuable for me to show up in this gathering? You know, why do I show up? How can I help that happen? You know, so if you go because of your parents, or you go because of your children, or you go because of your partner, you know, then you want to see, how can I be there for them? Because if you show up for them, but then you spend your whole time saying, I did this for you, you're not giving them anything, you know. So it's this process of examining, what do you carry in? What's in your little suitcase or in your purse, you know, in your wallet, that you're bringing to the gathering that is going to perhaps be the spark that, you know, it's either a positive spark or a negative spark.
But isn't it difficult to be angry with somebody who's being so kind to you?
No.
It's not.
No.
Okay.
Trust me, it's not. You know, it's like, I don't care if you're kind to me this year. You weren't kind to me the entire time I was a child. So we have to look at our minds, you know. But it can really change things if you decide, I'm not going for me, I'm going for others, you know. I'm not going, like I'm going home for Thanksgiving because my stepmom is turning 90. But I'm also going because it's my only opportunity to see, you know, my brothers and everybody else, because they're all coming for this 90th birthday party, because I could skip the party. They'd probably be happy if the nun wasn't at the party. But, you know, so, but they won't be there any other time of the year. So this is like, you know, one-stop shopping. I can go and see them all, you know, so that will be good. So I need to remember that that's why I'm going. You know, that I'm going because it is my only chance this year to see all my relatives. You know, so, you know, this is, we just have to see is, are you going to get something from others? Are you going to give something to others? You know, And that can just be your presence, you know, your open, spacious presence. What comes to mind? What challenges with that idea come to mind?
Responding rather than reacting.
Responding rather than reacting. To really hear what people are saying to you, or, you know, like, it's really helpful to notice if someone's nervous. You know, that a lot of, you know, we think it's just me that's a good judge of character. And nobody else at the party is thinking the same thing about us, you know, so that, you know, we need to be aware there that if, you know, family gatherings are a little bit uncertain about how it's going to go, that everybody's probably feeling that energy, or a lot of people are. And so we can put each other at ease, you know, by bringing that attitude of ease, you know, sort of like, you know, so when you practice, when you're visualizing this in your mind of what happens, it's important to try to visualize being able to just respond gracefully to whatever happens. You know, if the argument over politics erupts, you know, you don't have to freak out. You can just say, oh, so this is, so now's the time for that discussion. You can choose not to participate. You can let it just burn itself out, whatever, you know, but it's about, you know, trying to keep ourselves from coming in and then reacting to our preconceived notions. You know, so when that, you know, that discussion arises or the people disagree, I mean, if you know they're going to disagree, they're, you know, and they start talking about it, they're probably going to disagree if they have different points of view. You know, but if our response isn't, there you go, ruining the event again, you know, that's going to help, you know.
I remember Brian once saying that he knew absolutely when he went home at this time of year that he would get to the house and within 15 or 20 minutes of everybody sitting down, they were going to bring out the kill book and start showing each other pictures of all the stuff they killed during the year. And he was a vegetarian
That's right.
anyway.
Right, right.
And he said, oh, so it took him some work to detach from that.
Yeah, because we already know a lot about our family members, you know, so, you know, there's a lot that shouldn't surprise us. You know? So if you know there are all hunters in the family, you know, you might see some, you know, or hear some stories about all the hunting adventures, you know. So if you're choosing to be there, you know, then really you're going to resent them for that, you know. So it's about being able to, it does not mean that you allow people to be abusive to you, you know. So it doesn't mean if, you know, cousin Pete you know, drinks too much and starts, you know, spewing, you know, abuse at you, that you can't leave or that you can't say, I'm sorry, I'm going to get up and go away now, you know. Doesn't mean that. You know, what it does mean is that you come open to what's actually happening, not what you think's happening, or what you think will happen, or what you expect to happen that doesn't happen. Because expectations are really like business contracts that no one's agreed to, you know, except you. You're the only one in it. So if we expect others to behave like we want them to, and they haven't signed any document saying, okay, I'll do that, you know, It's unreasonable. If we come with this, looking for proof that nothing's changed, you know, we'll probably find it. So we want to practice in our minds, picturing different things that we expect, you know, let what we think will happen bubble up, and then breathe into that. And see, okay, how can you not take that personally? How can you let go of your expectation? You know, if you have this, I always had that expectation, well, maybe my mom won't drink too much. Not gonna happen, you know, just not going to happen. It's just, you gotta let go of that, you know. When my mom died, one of the parts of grieving was this thing, oh, I'm never gonna get the mother I want. Because, you know, now I don't have her at all. So, you know, that's our reality, folks, is that we, you know, that people can't become the person we want them to be. That's just not part of the deal. Just like we can't just become who everybody else wants us to be. So the more we can be open to what we can love about each other, what we can share, what we can surrender to the knowledge that we are all mixtures of good qualities, lousy qualities, skillful behavior, unskillful behavior, you know, but if we choose to be there, you know, then we just, you know, relax into it. Instead of putting on the armor and coming ready to defend yourself at every turn, you know, throw it off and breathe. Breathe. Don't carry that weight of the past everywhere you go. Or the weight of expectations, because expectations are a burden. You know, it prevents us from seeing what's unfolding because we're looking only for what it is we want to happen, or we're looking for what we don't want to happen. So being able to kind of imagine ourselves being open, not a target, just sort of like, okay, I've lived through all these other family gatherings, I'll probably live through this one. So I'm showing up again, so maybe there's something in it for me that isn't just these preconceived ideas and these expectations and this, you know, opportunity to prove we're right about everybody in our family, you know, whatever. Is this making any sense? So, and for those of you who've already got these, you know, a lovely experience with your family, excellent. I rejoice. Keep it up. You know, go for it. Enjoy it thoroughly. You know, so it's just, you know, we just want to be aware that we tend to bring things into these gatherings that may not be reasonable. And if we let those things go a little bit at a time, there's much more opportunity for pleasant moments. And they'll all be pleasant, you know. If you overeat, you might not feel totally pleasant at the end of the meal, but that's on you. So, you know, but it really is about picturing yourself handling whatever happens, you know, taking it in stride. Knowing that just like you chose to come, you can choose to leave. You don't have to feel trapped. Mostly where we're trapped is in our thoughts. You know, we get trapped by our thoughts. We, you know, we hear one thing that we, you know, there they go. And we hold on to that thought, and we just keep, like rolling our eyes at, our idea of that person, because we're still holding on to that thought. I mean, I was thinking this morning about something someone said 20 years ago to me. I mean, actually, it wasn't to me, it was just in a conversation at a meal. And I'm thinking, really? Really? You're still holding on to that comment? And you're still judging that person as if they'd make that comment today when you have no clue they'd make that comment today. I changed boy, have I changed in those 20 years. Why couldn't they have changed in those 20 years? But it's interesting how we do that. We just, and according to research, kind of scary, depressing research, we tend to only read things that support our point of view. So we read the first 3 sentences of something, go, and we just don't finish it. We listen to a news story, and if it's, the reporter's not kind of supporting your point of view, you quit listening. Just don't. We look for things that support our point of view. So if we aren't comfortable with, we don't like someone's politics, we, disagree with everything they think, we will look for those comments, hold on to them, and put them in the box that we have labeled them to prove we're right, to support our already existing position. And with our families, that's a real setup. Because then they can't change. Because we'll never be observant of any change. Because we're just fishing for that proof that there's no changes happen. And you wonder why nobody's noticed that I've changed. They're doing the same thing.
And when the conversation gets heated, it's hard to be objective.
Yes, we have to remember, if a conversation between others, say you're not involved in it yet, if it becomes heated, what does Buddhism say about that? Testing the Buddhist amongst us.
Middle path, neither extremes of.
What does it say about the mind during a heated discussion?
It's delusional, suffering.
It's delusional, yes. It's incorrect. It's unreliable. It's exaggerating either the good qualities or the bad qualities. It's out of control. So just like someone who's out of control with alcohol or out of control because they're going into diabetic shock, we need to respect that when someone's been hooked by something, they're a bit out of control. So do we really want to participate in that conversation? Or let it settle down? And do we want to, have some negative response to the people involved? They're out of control. Their button's been pushed. So how can we respond instead? Not necessarily say anything or do anything, but how can we respond instead?
You could walk away, or if you feel like it's appropriate, maybe try to diffuse it.
If it won't escalate it.
Yeah.
But what can you do in your mind?
Oh, feel compassion.
Feel compassionate. Their button's been pressed. Allow yourself to breathe out positive energy of support. Oh, I know how that is. And I get out of control. I say things and go, my button gets pressed, and just really understand, oh, well, there's our humanity. There we are. We're not Buddhas yet. So, it's like, it's really it's that spaciousness, so we embrace each other with spaciousness as opposed to, why don't you get it? Because, that's most gatherings, doesn't have to be family, most gatherings, there'll be those moments where someone's button's pressed, you know? And sometimes if they're, you know, it's a gathering of people we've been gathering with for a long, long time, we can go, there they go. Don't they get it? But if we could just, you know, have compassion, you know, and understand that we're all coming from a place of wanting things to be easier, less painful, you know. Nobody shows up to a, well, I'm not going to say that, you know. But the majority of people who show up to their family gatherings don't want to go to war. They're just prepared for one. And that's unfortunate. Yeah, George.
So are you saying that you should show compassion? The other day, and I can't remember what was happening, but two people were arguing, and so I was standing, so I started breathing.
Mhm.
But I wasn't giving compassion, I was giving it to myself.
Well, you can start with you, but it's really nice if you can expand it,
Okay.
you know?
All right.
You know, because, I mean, and that's something you really can start with. Like, you start with all the people present who aren't involved in the heated whatever, because no one's comfortable. You know, so you can kind of breathe compassion. Oh, we're all in the same boat. So, but it's really good if you can acknowledge that the people who are hooked are suffering. You know, there's something going on for them, you know, that has really, you know, and it's not, it doesn't mean they just, that everything they say is meaningless. It just means they are over, you know, they're just seeing whatever it is, that's, whatever button's been pressed, they're just focusing in on that, you know, and they're kind of out of control about it, so. So it's really helpful to kind of, like I said, just to sit and think about, what is it I expect to happen, you know? And you know, and all those little negative things might arise, and let's hope some positive things arise in the mind, you know, and try to visualize yourself handling things differently inside. You may never have been the person who got hooked and started screaming. You might have been hooked, but you didn't do anything, you know? But it's just, you know, you just try to find a way to bring spaciousness to it, you know, to be able to breathe in. I want to be with these people. They're my family. They're not perfect. They're not, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And I want to enjoy them. You know, they have to be a condition for that to happen. And we can't do that if we're all tight and armored. And then if something happens, you know, like if, you know, we feel, you know, obviously this is a process. You know, most of us can breathe and kind of open our heart a little bit, you know. But, you know, you feel like, oh, I've thrown off the, you know, the gates to the fortress, you know. And then someone zings you. Oh, that's, you know, and you go, yep, slam. You know, blah. Yeah. You know, then we can, you know, then it's really good to feel compassion for yourself. Wow, I've just been wounded. The other person may not have intended to wound you. You know, it's not, you know, in that moment, just take care of the wound. Don't worry about how it happened, you know. Because sometimes, you know, we're just very, very sensitive to certain things. And I find family gatherings are like at that heightened sensitivity, because these are people that we've shared most of our lives with. We have a strong karmic connection, according to the Buddha, you know, but we're born into these same family. I mean, you know, so it can be an easy circumstance for being wounded. So we just want to take care of the wound, know that we can take care of it, that we're capable of, you know, going, wow, that hurt, you know. And if it's appropriate, you can say, wow, you know, that hurt. appropriate, you just take care of it within. You know. And sometimes it can be always helpful. Okay, that's a totally bogus beginning of the sentence. But it can be helpful to give yourself space between the event and your communication to someone else about the event. Because often, if you let time elapse, you'll realize they didn't wound me. I was carrying the knife, and because of something that happened earlier, you realize it really had nothing to do with that particular interaction. So if you wait, then you can discover what's really the source and handle that. What are we thinking now? Any other challenges come to mind? Yeah.
Since I've been practicing before, I was very sensitive to certain things that I felt were misperceptions of me,
Right.
and that comes up in family and at work sometimes. But I felt I knew what to do, which is to strike back, and that seemed very clear to me. Even though I was always feeling badly about it, but as long as I asserted,
Yeah.
my point of view and even subdued the other person, then I felt this very temporary feeling of that I was vindicated. But since I've been practicing, first of all, that feeling has subsided a great deal. I'm not attached in family situations to perceptions or misperceptions. They're often not based on anyone really finding out. But I'm still very challenged in certain situations with that, like at work, because I just don't know, keeping the practice in mind, when do you correct something that could have repercussions if somebody,
Well,
let's say they
that's-
write you a bad evaluation or something,
Right, I think that that's something that we have to include in our reflections, is what are the consequences, of doing nothing. Now, the Buddha says that anytime we retaliate, there's going to be negative consequences eventually. That mind of retaliation is harmful to us and others. But the mind of that, it's like Sangha. Buddha, lots of conduct advice from the Buddha and for monastics, and part of it was to protect the reputation of Sangha. That it's because people can lose faith in the teachings if the reputation of the Sangha goes down. They're supposed to be really good practitioners. And as we all know, if you've been watching me at all, I'm not a Buddha. I just wear red robes. So sometimes our conduct is not skillful. So, it's a challenge, that's one of the reminders. Oh, that's right. I need to guard my speech and my actions when around others, so no one loses the faith of the Dharma by my actions. So it isn't that there aren't times where it matters what people think of our skills or whatever, like in a job situation, but how we respond to it. And I don't mean the words used or whatever, I mean the attitude about it, where we're not doing it out of indignation or pride. We're doing it because it's not true. And it needs to be, you need to set the record straight because it matters in the work arena, It may not matter if your brothers know whether or not you can use a computer, but in the workforce, it's going to matter.
So how we react is important.
Well, how our mind is when we react is important. If we react with anger, we want to check that. We want that anger to pass first. Not hold on to the anger, but we want to correct the misinformation. And we may not succeed. because it's out of our control what other people listen to, you know.
Would self-advocacy be like relevant? in
Oh,
that
yeah,
case?
sure, self-care, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a retaliation?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the mind. You know, what thoughts you're having. You know, if you're striking back, you know, the choice of words that you used are very helpful, you know, because, you know, that's, you know, like, that, there's probably a little annoyed energy at least in there, if not anger, you know. And it really isn't the point. That doesn't correct the misinformation. It just puts out someone else's thing. You know. So now nobody has a good reputation at work. So, you know, that's not really what the intention is. If the intention is, you know, to correct this, you know, this misinformation that's going around. This is why rumor and gossip is considered really a negativity in Buddhism, you know, because we really do spread rumors. You know, it's really easy to do. We get a little piece of information and it becomes a story, you know, and we share it with others. And so we need to recognize that silence is, you know, helpful, an awful lot, you know. So, and it's an interesting challenge just to see, you know, how many funny stories you can tell that don't malign someone else. You know, to practice your humor that doesn't take someone else down a notch. Some people are really good at that, you know. Yes, Vincent.
I find it very, very helpful in confronting a situation like this. The first of the Buddha, the first cause is ignorance. And not to use ignorance as an insult, but ignorance merely means not to know.
Right.
So the first tool I give people is the Russian iPod. I just say to the person, you have a very interesting point of view, and they immediately are disarmed. And at that point, then we can go around and discuss the peacemaking methods. But that iPod, I've shared with many, many people, and it always brings a smile to you and the other person. It's a way of discovery.
Well, and that is really an interesting point because, you know, often that's how a heated discussion starts. Someone says something, and someone else, you know, doesn't like what they've heard at all. But if instead you explore their point of view, give someone some space to talk about their point of view. I mean, we don't have conversations in this country very often about political issues or this and that, and that's become an increasing problem. We can't find our common ground because we won't share how, you know, why we've come to this conclusion. We'll share the conclusion or our point of view about anybody who thinks differently, that kind of thing, but we don't actually explore. And of course, family gatherings might be one of the best opportunities to try to understand differing political views, you know, because we keep showing up to these family gatherings in spite of the fact that many of us don't think they go so well. So, you know, it doesn't, you know, it's not like getting fired at work or something. You know, there might be a chance to discuss it if people are comfortable. It depends on the condition. But sometimes just allowing people to have the space to present their point of view without arguing back immediately, you know, means that it doesn't escalate into a heated discussion. It just becomes a discussion of differing points of view. It does take some skill. Yeah.
Well, there's the other middle road that I've used before in mediation was really just lots of times, especially in heated discussions, people say things and they don't even understand what's coming out of their mouth in terms of what other people are hearing. So saying what I hear, or what I just heard you say, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and laying it back down because probably I've taken some sort of offense or just misconstrued in the communication channel, putting it back out there, might allow them to restructure the phrase or see where it came out negatively.
Or find out where you're mistaken.
Or, exactly right, and so you can at least open it up that way a little bit, and I know that helps me tame it, even myself down. Because I'm saying it right,
Yeah,
right?
because we're not, yeah.
This is what I'm hearing you say, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And if they say absolutely, then, okay. That
Well,
might be,
I mean,
but
you know,
usually
you
it
just wanna
does
be clear,
diffuse.
you know, so my stepmom and I have had many conversations like that, where it's kind of like, okay, are you saying blah, blah, blah? No, that's not what I'm saying blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, well, does that mean blah, da, da? No, you know, I mean, it's just like, it's this really interesting thing, you know, we had lots of time, because my dad was not, his participation in the conversations weren't particularly helpful, so, you know, so we spent 3 years together taking care of someone with Alzheimer's, so we had lots of, and we totally, pretty much don't agree on anything. You know, so it was really fun to discover how we all have our own jargon. So communicating's difficult. You think you're saying one thing, and they're hearing a completely different sentence. You know, and it's partly because of our jargon, our word choice, the way we structure sentences, also because we start most conversations in the middle. You know, we've already had the conversation going on in our head, and then we go da-da-da-da-da, as if they've heard the entire, you know, prologue, but they haven't. So it's really, again, it's that spaciousness. Let's not jump to the conclusion that we heard them, you know, the way they meant to, what they're expressing. Or even if we heard what they said, then you want to really make sure you understand what they mean by that. You know? So it can be, you know, it's just, and it takes more time. You know, so sometimes the obstacle is laziness. We just don't want to spend the time getting to know this person because we've already decided we don't really like their point of view, so why listen? You know, so it's challenging. All of this is challenging, but but you're already challenged. You might as put the energy to good use, you know, instead of just watching the clock. Going, is it an acceptable time to leave yet? So, you know. And you just have to choose sometimes. You know, you have to look at, what do I want out of this gathering? Is this conversation necessary for this gathering? You know? Or is it going to be an obstacle? Or it's just not a good time and place. It's hard. I mean, it's all a choice, and we're going to make mistakes. But so it's really helpful before you leave or in your car, well, probably not while you're driving. While you're driving, please pay attention to the other cars. But, you know, to really sit for a moment with what is valuable to you about family gatherings. You know, just so that you can, you know, have that in the forefront. You know, that you carry with, you know, you walk in with your heart, not, you know, not with the armor. And if you can't find a way not to be that armored, you might want to ask yourself, why am I going? Because I know there are families that are not your average discomfort. You know, but you really have to ask yourself if this is a good place for you to be. But most of us are fortunate in that not being the case. It's, you know, just a group of people who are skillful and unskillful and have different points of view and have different needs. They all want different things, you know, or seemingly different things from the gathering, and that can conflict. Speaking of gatherings, why don't y'all introduce yourselves to each other so that we're not a bunch of strangers here.
Steve.
Raphael.
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 Hi, Tally.
Nice to meet you. Tali? That's cool.
Have you been sitting out there? We're gonna quit closing the curtain until we know you're leaving. I missed you.
How's their shoot today?
Excellent. Lovely day in paradise.
It is a lovely day.
It is
here.
a lovely day. Yesterday was.
Yeah, it was. It was.
I know.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'm attached to that
Oh,
kind of
Raphael,
way.
where are you from? I've heard of that place.
All right. Everybody meet someone new? Yes. So introduce me. Someone be brave. Yes, Chad.
This is Eileen, Jerry, Raquel, my son.
You're going too fast for me.
You can remember,
And not loud enough.
Eileen, Jerry, Raquel,
Jerry, Raquel,
Asani,
Masani,
Lena Beata,
and Ami.
and
Ame.
Joy.
Joy, Beata, Tony, Mas-
Asani,
Masani, Raquel, Jerry. Okay.
And here's my Brazilian friend, Raphael.
So this is Raphael. This is Steve introducing him.
John?
John. Who did you meet?
Who did I meet? I met Tali.
Tali. Tali, did you meet anybody?
Katie,
Katie.
John, and Raphael.
Okay. Nicole, tell us somebody. that-
Ash.
All right.
And Vincent.
And Vincent. Vincent, did you meet anybody?
Frank.
Frank.
I think it's Frank.
Tom.
That's okay. So.
I blame it on age.
Me too. All right, so Tom, did you meet anybody?
I met Vincent and Raphael.
And Brian is next to you, Tom. And Melissa's at the other end of the row. Right? Yeah,
Masani, Vincent, Tom.
very well. Hope,
I met Lou.
Lou, who did you meet? Ilana. Nice. Ilana?
Lauren, Lou, Hope, I met Vanessa and John.
Okay, so we have Lauren, Ilana, Lou, Hope, Vanessa, John. John, who did you meet? Okay, so Lynn, who did you meet?
I met John, Vanessa, and you who have a really cool name, and I forgot.
Kenyatta. Yeah, I'm gonna have trouble with that one too, Kenyatta. And, oh well. So, well, welcome. Thank you for sharing. That's Ralph who just came in. So, and there he's sleeping again. Sorry about that. Anyway, all right. So one thing that I find helpful, and maybe it's because I've had to travel to different places, by myself, like I moved to Australia and went to this nuns community and didn't know anybody. Actually, when I went to be ordained, I didn't know anyone. Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, I want you to go be ordained by Geshe Sopa, and I went up there, and there was a course on, so there were lots of people there, and I didn't know anyone, and I had to go to lunch with a whole bunch of people with my head shaved and a little piece of hair sticking out, That had a point. So, what I do is I carry people in my heart. Like at this next family gathering you have, when you have one of those moments of kind of like, pause, don't do anything. Think of the smiling faces here. Just kind of, you don't have to be clear. You don't have to remember anybody's name. It's just sort of like, share a moment of humor, with the community you carry with you. So that can really help you not feel isolated, struggling on your own. And you can just, have 100% confidence that there are many other people at a family gathering feeling exactly like you do right in that moment, that this is who we are. We're struggling to find our way, our method to be, have less suffering, to be more open-hearted, and it's not easy. It's something we have to learn. So it's helpful to bring our friends with us, our chosen family kind of, group, and feel their support, so that, we're never kind of just out there. Because the Buddha really, our sense of separation from each other is really pretty false. Science doesn't support it. We're very interdependent, interconnected. Our bodies are made of all the elements of the earth, of the universe, and they're constantly changing. I shared with folks, I ran across an article that the BBC had done in 2016 about, you put in your height, your weight, your gender, and age. And it tells you, and you press a button, not literally, but you click on a go, and it tells you how much of your body is oxygen, how much is carbon, how much is, how many cells you have, and also how many microbes, other living things that you have. So we have over 30 million cells. No, that's wrong. Over 30 trillion cells and over 100 trillion other life forms, little microbes. So we support 100 trillion microbes. We've got quite a big family. So and we're mostly space. They say if you could get rid of all the space in our atoms, we'd be the size of one red blood cell. We're mostly space. Isn't that outrageous? So forget thinking you're fat. You're the size of one red blood cell. I mean, this is like amazing to me. It's so much fun to recognize that our perception of things is completely controlled by our visual powers, so we can't see all these the 100 trillion microbes in the body. Probably that's a good thing. But it's really, we can't see the space. We just look and, see age spots. I mean, this is, it's just not, it's not what it appears to be. It's only what our eyes happen to be able to see. It's only what our ears are able to hear. There's so much more going on, and there's so much space. It's really interesting. Yes?
I bring this right back to family. So I was just thinking that one of my big problems is that I'm always making assumptions about others. And particularly as I've become older and our families have become separated, non-nuclear, we hear stories, but we really don't know. So I'm making assumptions based on stories, based on who knows.
Oh yeah, we've heard something before the event, and
And it's crazy, and then we have a face-to-face encounter, and it's just all out of control, based on my assumptions. And one of the things that I fail to recognize is that underneath it all, right, there's just this person who is not perhaps as glorious as the story, but who has some suffering. Everybody suffers. Everybody has some suffering in their lives. So be able to really take a look, which is what brought me to this, taking a look at what's really there, helps me a lot in shattering assumptions so that I can relate to the person in some form of reality.
right, the person who's actually there in front of you. Not all the stories, not all the, everything else we bring in, that we filter everything with. And it's so interesting and sometimes you can practice just consciously going, okay, I'm going to ignore, the name of this person, all the stories I carry with me about this person. I'm just going to listen to what's being said to me right this moment, and I'm not gonna, file it in between other things I've heard them say. I'm just going to listen to what they're saying right now. We don't listen much. We mostly start planning what we're going to say. But if we just listen and respond from that place, what's happening right now, and we can even clarify if we're not sure we heard correctly. We can slow everything down. But that, if you're like me and you tend to be a quick speaker, then you have to really make an effort to slow it down. To listen first. And then choose whether you're going to respond or not, and how you're going to respond. These are things that are very, it takes being aware. It's based on awareness, noticing what's going on in your own mind, what you're bringing to the scenario, and then also being aware of others. Like I said, if you notice that someone else is nervous or tense, then you can help be part of ease, kind of, trying to create a less stressful space. We can only take care of ourselves. We can't make the space, everybody's space not stressful, but the more people that are peaceful at a gathering, the more peaceful the gathering. It's just inevitable. The more loving you are, the more whatever, And sometimes you just have to use something very basic. I used to, when I'd reach for the doorknob, have to go, okay, the people behind this door are people I love. May I come from that place? Not from the greedy daughter who wants this or that, and not from the, I don't know, jealous sister, or the sister that's carrying the grudge, or the, whatever, or the person that, the family member that has no confidence, Instead of coming from any of those places that's all about me, really come from the place that is other focused, that I really care about these people. I want them to be well. I want them to be happy, and to be there for them, as opposed to be there to get something from me. And that can really change the energy.
We were at last Christmas, because we moved, and it was an emotional situation because Gary's mom passed away, and we moved into her home, and we didn't have TV or internet hooked up right away. So I had to get creative and say, okay, well, what are we gonna do? So I got charades out, and we end up everyone has such a good time, and we live in Florida, so we can sit outside and do this, and now we play cards or charades, and that actually is what I used to do with my family and grandparents when I was very little. So it really taught us a big lesson, and instead of sitting around the TV, now we actually do something together. And the stepson's a teenager, so you really have to come up with something exciting, and he loves to play these games or cards. So that was really nice.
Yeah. I've seen people who, I had a friend that would, plan, because the family gathering included a lot of kids. And so she would create, a plan of games, and she'd buy prizes for everybody, and so they spend the whole day playing games and having little contests and stuff, so that actually maybe they don't have to talk to each other. But I think, it's just whatever it is. We not always, if you're going to someone else's home, you don't have a lot of, say in the structure of things, but if you have some, thought, if you are the one, you to try to think about how can I be the hostess or host that, is taking into account the stressors that might be here. So it's just, enough about that. Now we pray that we, that we can, that we can bring mindfulness to it. That we can really remember, oh, what's important to me? Oh yeah, that's right. What's important to me is, to spend a little time with my family members. Remember that we carry our family in our DNA. We literally are parts of these people. Yeah.
I want to know, what is your secret in remembering all these names?
Listening. It's just listening instead of thinking about the next name. Which, or in my case, it's that I can't pronounce half the names. So, I have to not think about the fact that I can't pronounce that name because then I'll miss the next three. So that's the secret. Mindfulness. Now, when I don't know any of them a week from now, that's a whole different story. So, so just practicing in advance, imagining this scenario, especially the ones, of course, that you worry about, so that you can kind of let go of some of the expectations, preconceived, or at least be aware that you're bringing that into it, so that you can notice what's going well at the gathering, what you enjoy, what you like, all of those things. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. Questions? Okay, so I won't be here next Sunday because I'll be at the 90th birthday party of my stepmom.
And we're closed on Thanksgiving, but Jackie will be here, leading.
Jackie Keeley is our meditation leader, and so she'll be here. Is she going to do a meditation, the usual schedule? So the schedule will be the same, and Jackie Keeley will be helping us, facilitating it. So.
Be on gratitude.
Be on gratitude. That's another fave topic at this time of year. So, and that can be helpful before you show up at someone's door. To think about all the wonderful things that others. Are you coming up to make announcements?
Well, yes, we're going to do it together because you're.
Okay, it's just early, but go ahead.
Oh, I thought you had.
Yeah.
Like,
See, we weren't communicating.
Oh yes, and sorry about the air, everyone. I'm still on summer, trying to get it cool in here so there's no one sweating, because that's
'Cause I
my
complain.
concern. No, well, it does get warm in the summer.
Yes, it does. It's really hot. Okay, what do you want to start with?
Let's see. I wanted to start by thanking Ash for her lovely flyers.
Check out the flyer.
For Paula's visit in 2 weeks.
Gosh, is it?
Yes, it's only 2 weeks away.
So does that mean I have 2 Sundays off in a row?
Not in a row.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Now I'm confused. No, there's one in between.
Okay, in 3 weeks. So, okay. So Paula Chichester will be here on December 2nd, a Sunday. It happens to be Lama Tsongkhapa Day, which is one of the days, because Lama Tsongkhapa is one of our main teachers in this tradition. It's a day we celebrate. So, and Paula Chichester was a nun, and she did long retreats. She is she brings something very special to her teachings.
I think she did 2 or 3 3-year ones. No, 2.
And she
2,
definitely did
3
2, and she
year.
may have been in longer than that. I don't know. But as she says, she spent the last 38 years in full-time pursuit of Dharma realization. It's so she's anyway. So, so starting at the usual time on that Sunday, but it goes on until 4, and then there will be an evening of offering lights, is that correct?
Right, yeah, so we're gonna do a Lama Tsongkhapa, to celebrate him.
It's also a puja day.
Right,
yeah.
so we're having puja, Guru Puja at 5.
Which is a sort of like a thank you prayer for all the good qualities of our teachers, and a light offering. So when we offer lights, whether it's, even when you turn on your light in a room, or on the altar, it's supposed to be, the result of that is supposed to be wisdom. So we're going to cover the entire ceiling with lights. No. So you need to check out whether it's legal, tea lights and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
The details are still,
Yeah.
we're just.
Like if we have permission to go over to Sullivan Park, which is right near here, with tea lights, we'll light, make a light offering. If the city says, no open flames, we'll bring over Adrian's battery thing.
Right, or we could,
and we'll do
everyone
Christmas
could
lights.
have one individual light in a glass
Yeah,
container.
but we definitely want to do Christmas lights then, because we
Right.
want to have as many lights as you think. So every night you can, offer up all the stars. So anyway, that's kind of fun.
Right, so that's that in 2 weeks. So
3
I
weeks.
guess- No, 2. December 2nd is 2 weeks away.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, 2 weeks.
So I do get 2
You
Sundays
do
off.
get 2 Sundays.
Yes.
I know, you confused me, I confused myself with that question.
Yeah.
Yes. So, sorry, you get 2 weeks in a row off.
Maybe I'll go to Hawaii. Wow. No, but there will be class in between, so it's not true.
It's not on Thursday, so. this-
Not this Thursday, yeah. Huh?
You can go to Hawaii twice.
Yeah. Yeah. With my mind, I'm already there. Hey.
We've got beaches here.
And so then we have Karma the next Thursday after that.
Yeah, so we don't have Discovering Buddhism this week because we'll all be too full from Thanksgiving. And I'll be on a plane, so there. But the following Thursday, we'll continue with Karma.
And then, just reminding everyone, save the date for our holiday celebration, dinner and fundraiser. That will be December 15th. I'll be making vegetable curry and chana masala and salad and rice, and it'll be here inside the Gampa, and we'll be auctioning off some different things that you can purchase as gifts or for yourself, like this beautiful painting over here, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That will be one of the items, and we'll slowly start adding the items to that back table right there on display. So please do get your early bird ticket for that before December 1st for only $20. After that, there'll be $25, or if you come in pairs, it's only $20 as well. And
So it's a 2-for-1 if you come in pairs?
yes, yes.
Oh, I feel cheated. I'm kidding.
You could be my pair.
Okay. They don't tend to charge me anyway, so I really can't complain.
And maybe anyone has something they're able to sponsor or donate a product or service for the auction. All donations are greatly appreciated and are tax deductible. It can be something as simple as a gift certificate. We really appreciate your support because, as you know, the Dharma is free, but the center isn't. Our expenses are over $7,000 a month, really, and we are getting better at trying to make this transparent and put it on our website so that everybody knows the costs and you can see it. But if you can't offer financial support and would like to offer your time, we have tons of volunteer opportunities. So thank you, Anthony, for front desk today, Raphael for water bowls, Lauren for your help. So many ways to help, and we appreciate it all. So thank you all so much. And that's it.
Okay. Here's your signs. All right, so with that commercial interruption, so anyway, I'm rejoicing. Okay, so let's take a moment to think about, whatever motivation you set at the beginning, whatever intention, to remember that. And then rejoice just that, that we've spent some time working on our minds, and since all of our actions come from our mind, our heart, that's a really positive thing to do, that the more we take care of our minds, the more that our actions of body and speech will become more positive, not coming from a place of suffering. And so this way we contribute to the positive energy in the universe. And according to the Buddha, all of our positive actions of body, speech, or mind result in positive things in the future. That is the source of positive resources, etc. Feelings of happiness. So we want to be happy that we're working on these kinds of positive activities of the mind. And rejoice that there are others here with us doing the same thing. And we can just rejoice about, during this time that we've been here, all the positive things that have occurred, all the kind words that have been said, all the helpful information that has been given, all the physical support that have been given to others, the smiles, all the beneficial thoughts, all the creative people in the world coming up with ideas that help other people. And all this has also been going on while we've been here. And how wonderful that is. And we can feel completely confident that many positive activities of body, speech, and mind are always occurring. So we want to dedicate our efforts and everybody's positive efforts. And there's a, so we'll read Shantideva's prayer on page 244 or 246 if you want to be on the right page. So basically, we're trying to use the cause and effect of our actions, that, if we create positive actions, there'll be positive effects, and we just want to share them with everyone so that no one is suffering whatsoever. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their illness. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. So thank you very much. Have a lovely Sunday.